How you doing? Hey, Abdul. Good to see you. Let me know if the sound and the video are okay. Everything working today? We've got a nice overcast day. I think the not going to get really hot. So starting off to a good day. How you been? Hi, Dom. Good to see you. Getting up. So you guys are about what? Abdul, you're about what? Let me see, around 2 o'clock, something like that. Hi, David. About the sound in the video. Everything working okay? Hi, Michael. Hi, Yoko. How you doing? Again, sound, video okay? Hi, Andrew. Alex. We have a nice day today, Alex. Oh, good. Thanks, David. Okay, good. That's what I need to know. Okie doke. Let's get started. I I've always wondered, like say, well, there is the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, GPHG, are the watches that go to nominations, are the watches that win. Are this really a good way to say, hey, that's a good watch? So maybe I ought to look at it a little more and or buy it or whatever. Now, early on, when I was just getting started in collecting in watch collection, I discovered it. This is, God, I guess around 2015 or 16. When this is when I really got serious watch collection, not just buying watches. And so I started looking at it and found out, good God, it's watches I'd never heard of before. And there was really interesting discussion. Got to know one of the judges who lives not too far from me, and he and I talked about it. And what he said, I think I think it's pretty much true. He said, "Yeah, it is a good way to measure the goodness of a watch, but there are a few kinks in it, and I think and almost every year they try to work out the kinks. In other words, someone will say, well, that category is a terrible category. Why don't we have this? To give you an example, they used to have a category called sports watches, and for some reasons, people got upset about that. So they wanted to call them divers, and so there was a category for divers. And other people got upset. So, well, now we're going to call them sports watches again. So now they're back to sports watches. And just this year, they added another category called time only. Um, it was these are for three-hand watches. We had entered our watch in that category, and we didn't make it. And then let me show you one of the reasons we didn't. Um, this has to do with the competition at any time. Okay, these are the watches that we were up against, and they're really excellent watches. This one's a little funny looking, but it's got a really good movement. Bernhardt letter, and some of these are like $100,000 and north of that. Chopard, I felt pretty good. I mean, just uh, as a one, it's a good watch. It's a good watch company. They got through nominations. We didn't, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like, oh wow, we wouldn't have a chance against that one. Nor the Chopek. Both of these watches, if they had more like that, I think we would have made it. But you got this H. Mosier and this Parmigiani. There was those that have been rough ones to be picked instead of, and so is sort of like, well, it depends on what category you're in, how many watches are in the category. I think it was one category that there were 6 watches. Well, there's for nominations from each category. So you happen to be in that category, you did pretty well. So there are a lot of different things. Men's complication is one that is an interesting one. And in other words, that this is about if as long as there's more than time only function, you can get into this category. And yeah, you have some really nice watches in here. And then you have another category called mechanical exception. And well, what's the difference? Well, I don't know. It's like maybe it's sort of like a really good complication. I'm just not sure. But anyway, these are considerations that I thought, well, if you're the watch is in it. Like you take, for example, there were 2 Rolexes in the 2007 competition, and they didn't make it either. We know how you feel, Rolex. We were in the same category. So, I mean, and also too, none of the watches that Marco Lang had entered made it. I tell you, one that really got me was Moritz Grossmann. A lot of her watches that I really like, they never made it, or if they some made it to nominations. But you look at the other ones; they were up against the nominations and had no idea why they didn't make it. So you have those kinds of things, but you have to look at it in the context. I mean, who are they? Who are they happen to be in competition? You could enter your watch in a year. For example, if I'd been smart, I wasn't smart. Back right, the first real GPHG they had after the pandemic, we had put our watch, which was sort of an earlier version of this one, we had put that into the petite aiguille, and people accused us of putting a much more expensive watch, into a category for less expensive watches. And so, like, okay, I think we had ours listed as under 10,000. And had we put it in, there were some other categories, I think we would at least got the nominations on. So it's not a perfect thing, but boy, I tell you, I don't know of one that's really any better. I've known a lot of guys who have gone up against again and again and again, and all of a sudden, wham, they make it. Benjamin Shi, a lot of his watches are starting to make it. At first, the only watch that he made wasn't a watch, but it was one of his clocks. And then they got rid of the clock category after that. Benjamin's got a couple up this year. And so, it's Stefan Kadoki. He's got his second or third watch up. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I just wanted to, to get your play on this. One of the things, Rancher had said this a few years ago. He said, look, I don't think these guys like you because they don't like what Larique is doing. They're putting together all of using top watchmakers, top movement makers, top dial makers. You're using all of these top companies, and you put a watch together that you can actually, you're only paying sort of pretty much the manufacturing price, but you're getting the same quality as watches that are going for 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much. And I don't know whether that's true or not, Rancher, but it's one of the insights they have. Okay, so let's see what you guys have got to say now. I've yakketed long enough. Abdul, let's see. I think there is a lot of politics in GPHG selection. This is apparent from the tutor used with every year, you winning something every year. Yeah, there is that. I think it's sort of like tutor is Rolex's way of saying, well, you're not going to kick Rolex around anymore, but we're going to put in tutor. Rolex has supported GPHG from almost the get-go. The one time they entered watches, they got stomped. So you have that too, is that, well, yeah, okay. So look at Abdul's point about Tudor is always one that's always sort of rankled me. No matter what, they seem to, at least in the sports category, the challenge category, or the petite aiguille category. Those are the three categories. And it used to be diver instead of, before they had that instead of sport. Something would always win every year, and you go back and you look at them, and the new Tudor was simply the old Tudor with a new paint job. So yeah, those kinds of things you wonder. Now, the way it's set up, this is another thing I wonder about, and I'm learning about it. There is what they call the Academy, and I just became a member of the Academy this last year. So the way they have it, man, I tell you, it's harder and harder to put politics in. I'll put it that way. You've got something like 900 people in the Academy, and then so what we did, we picked the nominations, the ones for nominations. So then that's the ones that just came out. And as much as I tried to vote several times for a watch, they wouldn't let me. But anyhow, the whole network of who's got the most friends, who's got the most promotions, and so on and so forth. Yes, that certainly affects it, I think. I really do. So we're working on that. Okay. Hey, Dominic. Let's see. Hello, Graham. How you doing? Hi, Sad. What is a watch? Is it a lifestyle? Is it a way to become happy? Is it a food? I don't know. That's a good point. Are watches for children? There's some, yeah. I think watches are out of fashion, just like cigars and cufflinks. Well, maybe so. Um, they're still able to sell out. Just so many brands. I cufflinks have been out for a while, but I still like them. As soon as I'll have to get some more cufflinks. I tend to either be ahead or behind the curve on that. Michael A., no different than the Oscars. There's a lot of truth to that. There really is. What I've heard about the Academy Awards and what people do is really, really is very much political. They spend a lot of money. They have these big billboards. They have these homes for retired actors, and they belong to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts, which is like our academy, like the GPHG Academy. And people go around to these old folks' homes with them, and they have gifts for them. They tell them about their movie. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. But I still think with 900 plus people, that gets it gets a little more difficult now. I think one might argue that say, well, most of them are in Switzerland, or a large majority of them are, and that's probably true. But still, you got, even with that, you've got a lot of people going on. HRM, a ton of top-notch watches didn't make it. Simply too many. That's part of it. That's always going to be part of it. If you happen to be in a category and everybody says, hey, that's my category, you can do quite well. If you're in another category and they take a look at it, they take a look at last year's entries and they go, oh my God, I'll get murdered in that. Well, the three-handed one was a new one. So we didn't know what we were going into. And once we got entered into it, we saw the ones into it and figured, uh-oh, we're in a heap of trouble. Uh, yeah, Abdul, that's right. It was Murderer's Row. There are some that got, like us, were sort of overlooked in that category that were excellent watches. So, I mean, it's like we weren't the only ones, but it was, the thing is that we didn't try to do what in fact we did try to do. We tried to go underneath, sort of in the back door in the petite aiguille category. That didn't work. People didn't like us because of it, so it wasn't much good. How much of the GPHG is like the overall watch hobby in general, filled with marketing, politics, and pluckery? I don't know. It'd be a super cool if the GPHG would do a sub 1,000 Swiss franc category. Make brands push for good quality, affordable pieces. HRM, this is another thing they do that drives me nuts. The challenge category gets pretty close to that, because before they had the challenge category, the petite aiguille category was like under 8,000, I think, and now it's between 3,500 and 8,000 Swiss francs. None of which is, but if you look at the challenge category, you got some really interesting watches in that. Now, one of the funny things was Nomos put in. They had two strikes against him. I think people figured, oh, that's not fair. Nomos, everybody loves Nomos. And so they didn't make it past the, so, hey, Nomos, here we're all over here crying in our beer together. You never know. They don't have as many, I guess instead of being made in Switzerland, they're made in Germany. Maybe that has something to do with it. Hey, AF Gomez, how you doing? GP is also super political. Yeah, I know. This is why I think I think they're aware of that, and they don't want to be seen as super political unless they're on my politics. Like if I know Joe, it was, hey, slip a present for old Joe or whoever it is, or Himlack or Heidi, somebody. So that on the politics, if you win or you do well, I think people think, well, it's not political. If they lose, it's political. I don't know. You got brands like Harboring 2. They've won 4, I think. And they make something like 400 watches a year. They're in this little outfit in Austria instead of Switzerland. And everybody loves Harboring 2, but you don't see too many like that. Kadoki is starting to he's sort of like, in fact, he and Richard Harboring hang out together. There's something, like you have sort of like, we'll keep you down in this one lower category. Again, I'm not sure how Lurique is like, we're really 5 continents, subcontinents, all over the world, and so we're not, and I think that sort of makes people uneasy. But all of our watches are 100% Swiss. I mean, everything, including even the case for it. So I don't know. We'll see. A real independent category would be perfect for Lurique. That might be true, but it might not be. We'd get crowded out by all of these. I mean, Boutenland and FP Journe, a lot of they say, well, we're independent. Rolex would say, hey, we're independent. we could be in a heap of trouble there, Abdul. Uh, Abbins 92. I want to take names directly. Why does Chopard and PF time only watches that are not even special ones get nominated like over watches? Well, first of all, Chopard, I mean, because it was a hands only, a three hand category, and they're well made. Um, and I think one of the things there are more people who know it. It's going to take a more time than we thought for people to know us. And unfortunately, the first one was that we were trying to game the system. I think, like I said, this is something that Rancher had said some while ago. A lot of them, I think, you guys, you're making us look bad. Here you have a watch that you're advertising for like 9,000 that you paid for the manufacturer of it, and then here you see the same thing for 50,000 or 40,000. We don't like that. I don't know. I just don't know. See, last year Berthold won chronometry category. This year there is no such category. You know what they did, Evans, is that the chronometer category is, I think it's one of those special ones that they don't have competition. They look at all of the watches and they say, okay, this one's got the best chronometry to it, and went on the basis of that. Dominic, the watch is the end of the story. The fun part is how it became. The original thought, prototype, team, tools, and equipment factory, and everything. Yeah, boy, some fun is an interesting way of putting it, especially with our current project. Our current project just has our third project is starting to get wheels now, so I'm very excited about that. Anyone ever heard of Blue watches? Yes, I have. That's Bernard Lederer's. That's one of his brands. Oh, yeah, you have it there. Okay. They use a highly modified 2892 with wandering hour complications. Yeah. So I wonder if it was involved. HRM that one is also like who is it? Vincent Calabrese there's a brand that he was associated with for a while, and then he separated from it. And trying to think some other. Oh, I mean, there's one of the most unusual ones I thought was when Daniel Roth. He used to have this funky name because he couldn't use his own own company name anymore, and because it was bought by Bulgari. Well, this year LVMH, which owns Bulgari, said, well, we want them back with his name. And so they pulled him out of wherever he was before and said, okay, you're back again. And but then they said they did something really interesting. They said, okay, now our watchmaking group, which is called, I think it's called La Temps de Fabrique or La Fabrique de Temps, something like that, actually made the watch, but was based on Daniel Roth's work. And so I guess that's okay too. Interesting stuff going on. But we're not global or universal like SAD. Okay. What are you guys picking on SAD for? Michael, what was the entry fee for Lyric? Sounds like good advertising for the fee. Absolutely, Michael. It's one of the least expensive, worldwide advertising you can have. It was like 800 Swiss francs, I think. You could spend 800 real quickly for some rinky-dink, almost nothing website. But this thing, no, yeah, I agree. It's money well spent. The other part is if we had made nominations, there's another 7,000 Swiss francs for the world taking it on a world tour. That maybe it wasn't such a bad thing this year. Abdul, let's see. I think that the lyric concept is pretty interesting for real collectors looking for value with with no hype. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we can't even afford the hype. Wait, actually, it's the thing about it to me. What Lyrique has been the best school imaginable for how the whole thing works. I mean, really, we've learned a whole lot. At least I have. I thought I knew a lot when we started, and I found out. And then we have this is another thing too. There's some people who are with our group who had some very, very interesting insight. These guys are industry analysts and they know a thing or two. And they've taken a look at some of these different ones and come back with some interesting, very interesting things. Yeah, it's great advertising for the price. I think it'd be, there was this one brand that actually did make the finals. Hang on, let me see if I can find it here. It was in yeah, here it is down here. It's in the challenge category. Let me bring it up. And this is something that maybe we ought to do more of. Okay, see if you can see it. Okay, it's this guy right here. Okay. This particular watch kept showing up on High Horology Lounge, and I think it's from China, and I always liked it because it was different. Here they got a little date window, and then they have two different tracks for the hours and the minutes. And so they'd put it up on our site. It wouldn't say anything about it. I say, okay, guys, if you're going to put it on High Horology Lounge, you got to have the make, the model, and the caliber. Well, they never did. So they got tossed out. They'd be back a while later. But they must have done that everywhere, a lot of places. And when I saw it, but it is, like I said, it's a very cool watch. Some of the other ones that we've talked about, this one right here, I thought, wow, that's a really interesting watch. This is a French watch, I think. And that's another thing too that turned out to be very interesting. These guys were, I was reading about the movement. I said they had a Miyota movement. Okay, they're in the challenge category. What they're charging isn't that much. I mean, for that. But then I read later on, according to them, it's a French movement. And in fact, it's on the movement. It says made in France. So, boy, this is interesting. I wonder what's going on with that. So some of these other ones, though, like this guy, I have no idea who that is. Space One over here. This one's a little harder to see. Put it up. Space One, this guy, I don't know where he came from either. But that's okay. I think one of the things about the GPHG is that you get introduced into so many different interesting watches. Whoa, it looks like my time is up. Anyway, let me take a look at some of these last comments you got here. Hi, Sammy. How you do? Is a Japanese brand, I think, super hard to come by. Is it Japanese? One of the two. I thought the characters, boy, I used to be able to do it. I could tell the difference between Japanese, Chinese, and Korean characters, and I thought those were Chinese. I could be wrong now. Oh, isn't it? Okay. Do a collector's edition. Let me tell you something. Um, in my opinion, Tim Masso is the most valuable asset that the Govberg group has. Okay. The way he presents watches, they're yummy, 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 so forth. But there's a fundamental difference. Uh, Tim's selling watches. Okay. I I think his analysis and everything else. I'm not saying anything negative about it, but there's always that. There's the sales thing. Um, there are a couple times that I had watches for sale that I mentioned, but I've got something almost 500 videos, and one or two is okay, but it's a little different approach. And as much as I have a great deal of respect for Tim, I think there's always that little difficulty of having you, sort of that interest, and he's not. I don't see Tim as like one of those guys with a used car thing and all those flappy things. He's not that way. He's very good at the analysis. Another thing too, I've been noticing that he's been doing a lot of writing for Quill and Pad, and they're good analysis. And I think that is important. But like I said, I'm always a little, you know, worried about. Now, someone I could team up with would be Archie. He's not selling anything except everything. I don't know. Um, I think I might be a little hard to put up with. So I don't know. That might be fun. Yeah, I agree. There's been a couple times I've yacked with people, and that has been fun. Maybe I can do something like that, Michael. Okay, last one. I plan on visiting Hutchinchick soon. They are trying to get into the independent space. They made a super beautiful case and movement. Good. A Larique and Moser collab would be cool. Would it ever? That might be a possibility too. It's sort of what would be sort of like this. It'd be a collaboration. It'd be Agenor, who make the movement for the Moser, and then us who apparently pay the bills. That might be something that we could get into. That might be fun. That's a great idea, HRM. Anyway, guys, have a great week. This afternoon at 4 o'clock, I'm hoping that Rancher will come up with another brilliant idea. He always does, and but I'll take credit for it. That's the only caveat I have. So, anyway, take care. Hope to see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock New York time.